Pratik, sir, we can start.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pratik Hira, and I'm the chair of FICCI Tourism Committee, UP State Council, and the member of National Committee of Travel, Tourism and Hospitality. I welcome all of you to today's webinar, which is the second in the series of Web of Uttar Pradesh, Department of Tourism, MKITM, and FICCI. This series was inaugurated on 20th of July by the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Culture, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Neelkant Tiwari, and our Principal Secretary, Tourism and Culture, Mr. Mukesh Mishra. We are in fact honored that we will have Mr. Mukesh Mishra today joining us and speaking to all of us in a short while from now. Ladies and gentlemen, today's topic of the webinar has been very carefully chosen, which is the next generation in tourism, is stress among students of travel, tourism, and hospitality. FICCI is the largest and the oldest apex association of businesses and industries in India, the voice of India's business and industry, I would say, influencing policy change for betterment of India as a country and a partner of the government to catalyze growth and development. FICCI strongly believes that education is the means to achieve all of this. We at FICCI firmly believe in the power of educated youth, and that through them we can make India as one of the most developed nations. To talk on this topic, the next generation in tourism, is stress among students of travel, tourism, and hospitality. We have curated a very illustrious panel of experts on the subject. We are very privileged to have with us Mr. Arun Singh, Director, FHRAI, Institute of Hotel Management, Noida, Mr. Eric Holliday, Director, Wales Beacons, UK's Student Recruitment Inbound Company. Dr. Anupama Srivastava, Coordinator, Tourism Program, University of Lucknow. Ms. Divya Agnihotri, COVID stress expert and a teacher at Gyanshri School of Haldiram in Noida. Professor Sheba Hamid, Professor of Tourism, Aligarh Muslim University, Dr. Praveen Singh Rana, Professor of Tourism, Banaras Hindu University, and Dr. Anushli Banerjee, Director and Professor of Tourism, UP Tourism's MKITM, Lucknow. At a later stage, I will introduce each of our panelists in detail. But at this juncture, I welcome all of you today as panelists to this webinar. Being tourism ready is a theme of this mega series, which has 7 webinars every Friday at 3 p.m. And the idea is to be ready for tourism, as all of us know very well and know for sure that it will all bounce back. Indeed, this period is very stressful for the industry, which is without any business since now almost 1.5 years. But then we all know tourism will revive and emerge much stronger than it ever was. So why not gear up, ramp up, and be ready when it all starts flowing in once again? It may be very depressing to note that there are close to 22 million tourism jobs in India that have been lost due to this ongoing pandemic. And mind you, this is the industry that is contributing about 9.5% to India's GDP and is employing almost 43 million people. The sector has, or let me wittingly call it, had for the time being at least, opportunities for all skill sets, the highly skilled, skilled, and even the unskilled. It engages the workforce directly as well as indirectly with itself, thus giving ample opportunity to the youth. Now, as I said, it all may sound depressing, very depressing actually, and for all of us. But then nothing is lost. I would say it's only blurred with frost, and for the time being, and all of it will just be fine. Rather, we will bounce back much better in the times to come, better than we ever were. Unfortunately, in the current circumstances, the opportunities in tourism and hospitality sectors have shrunk or dried up to the extent that even the graduating students are not being able to get internship opportunities that are actually a mandatory part of their courses. We as tourism industry realize that as this is our realization, and we wish to handhold students of travel, tourism, and hospitality in these most difficult times. Not only it will help them cruise through this difficult phase that we are in, but also as an industry, we would have a post-pandemic ready workforce when we need them with us for our own growth and to expand our own businesses, which at the moment are on sabbatical since almost, as I said, 1.5 years. Now, of course, as I said that Mr. Mukesh Mishra will be joining us in a moment, but let me take this opportunity before he joins us to introduce the illustrious panel of experts that we have today. We have with us Mr. Arun Kumar Singh, Director of FHRAI Institute of Hotel Management in Noida. Earlier to this, he served as the principal of IHM Mumbai, and earlier than that in Lucknow. In 1996, Arun had set up a Foodcraft Institute for the government of Rajasthan, which later in 2001 was upgraded to the Institute of Hotel Management and Catering Technology. Mr. Arun Singh is the alumni of IHM Lucknow from the batch of 1984. And initially, he had started his career with a five-star hotel in food and beverage. And then in 1987, he shifted to teaching hotel management at the IHM, which he continues till date. We also have with us Professor Sheba Hamid of Aligarh Muslim University. She's the professor, coordinator, and training and placement officer of the Master's Degree Program in Tourism Management at the AMU. Sheba has 5 published books and 35 international research papers on tourism to her credit. She's a member of several editorial boards of journals, research committees, selection committees, and boards of studies. She was also the conference advisory committee of AMU and the counselor for the tourism program at the Indira Gandhi Open University. Sheba is a keen traveler herself, and she's a connoisseur of literature, culture, art, cuisine, and costumes, probably all things that are good. Then we are privileged to have been joined from Swansea in the UK, Mr. Eric Holiday, whose surname Holiday, though with a minor change in the spelling, defines what he does. Eric is the director of Wales Beacons in the UK. He earlier worked with P&O Cruise, and which actually brought him to India in 1983 on his first maiden visit to the country. And since then, he fell in love with the country and more with the countrymen of India. In 1992, on one of his personal visits for a holiday to Goa, he was inspired to start his business as a tour operator. And then he went on to specialize in the university education recruitment programs, inspiring Indian students to study in the UK, particularly Wales. His UK inbound company, Wales Beckons, today is partnered with many universities, primarily in Wales, for which he connects with the Indian universities, not only for student recruitments, but also teachers and student exchange programs. Eric's company, Wales Beckons, is in fact the only travel company in the UK that arranges tours for Indian parents who wish to first see and understand where and how their children will study and live when they go and join the universities in the UK. Apart from this, the company handholds Indian students all through their study program in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also privileged to have Ms. Divya Agnihotri, who's a passionate teacher of humanities at Gyanshri School of Haldiram Group in Noida. Divya has worked extensively on the national education policy, studying it in great detail and critically analyzing it in the present context. After the pandemic hit us, she went on to do an analytical study of COVID-induced stress among the teachers and the taught. She's the team leader of Brewing Knowledge Club, which is a part of the national training team at the Learning Forward India. For an early changeover from face-to-face teaching to screen teaching, Divya also provided free training to teachers on the online teaching methods and processes. Divya Agnihotri also specializes in a branch of brain mapping where she analyzes multiple intellect of students as their learning modalities through their fingerprints. Quite an interesting intervention this sounds. On this panel, we are delighted to be joined by Dr. Praveen Singh Rana, who's a professor of tourism at the Banaras Hindu University in Varanasi. With 21 years of teaching experience, Praveen belongs to an illustrious family of educationists, and his doctoral thesis was on pilgrimage and ecotourism, which he was awarded in 2003. And then there are more than a dozen related published papers that go to his credit. Praveen has co-authored 3 books on tourism, including the bestseller, A Spiritual and Cultural Guide of Banaras. He's also a life member of the Indian Tourism and Hospitality Congress, INTAC, and Asian Cultural Landscape Association, Korea. Praveen is an international fellow at Gifu University in Tokyo and has widely traveled internationally to participate and speak at the international conferences. We are equally delighted to have Dr. Anushli Banerjee with us, who in fact is a very powerful lady of this ongoing webinar series, as it is being organized in collaboration with the UP Tourism's training institution, MKITM, that she heads. Anushli is also the publication officer at the Directorate of Tourism, Government of Uttar Pradesh, since the last 5 years. She has a robust on-ground experience of working with an international airlines for 6 years and then teaching at La Martiniere Girls College in Lucknow. Her bachelor's and master's degree in tourism from the University of Lucknow, and then finally her PhD in tourism, with a very interesting topic, is strategic understandings of airport services, a gender perspective, makes her the right lady in the right job. And finally, we have with us Dr. Anupama Srivastava, who is the coordinator of tourism programs at the University of Lucknow's Institute of Tourism Studies. She's the provost and the assistant dean of student welfare at the University of Lucknow. Anupama is also the coordinator of counseling and guidance cell of the University of Lucknow, teaching here since 1996. She has authored several books on tourism and has many international papers to her credit. Her papers have been presented in international tourism conferences in the UK, Japan, and Croatia. Anupama Srivastava is also a member of the Committee for Syllabus Design for Tourism for the state of Uttar Pradesh, which is incorporating the new education policy in the state universities and colleges. Dr. Anupama Srivastava, I am happy to tell you, that is also the moderator for this webinar. And now we have been joined by Mr. Mukesh Mishra, who is the Principal Secretary, Tourism, DG Tourism, and also Principal Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh, for Culture, Government of Uttar Pradesh. He is 1995 batch IS officer, currently, of course, holding the charges in Tourism and Culture as its Principal Secretary. He holds Master's degree in Public Administration from the University of Birmingham and Masters of Architecture from the IIT Roorkee. Given his vast exposure and international exposure at the global level, tourism industry is blessed to have him as its torchbearer in these most difficult times. Mr. Meshram is one officer who has been guiding and nurturing all who are around him, including his students, who often meet him at different occasions for different reasons. I'm happy to share with the august audience today, in a recent social media post by a student, by another IS officer actually, I was happy to note that there was this young boy in a remote village, and he had never seen an IS officer. So he wanted to see one. And it was just that time when Mr. Mukesh Mishra had started his career and joined the IS. And he was posted in that remote village and staying in a guest house there. So Mr. Meshram, when this young boy in the village came to know that Mr. Meshram is an IAS officer and he's staying there, so he took chance and went to this guest house and wanted to meet him. And you'd be surprised that Mr. Meshram, not only he met him, but he sat over a cup of tea and discussed with this young boy all about his studies and career and everything, Quite unexpected by this young boy, because from a village background, the boy was seeing IAS as some kind of a demigod or something. So, but that very incident or that very connect with Mr. Mukesh Mishra inspired this young village lad so much that he further on went to join the IAS services himself and is now serving as another IAS officer in another state. My purpose of sharing this story here is that we all must not only inspire to be really good in our professions, but more than that, we ought to take clues from Mr. Mukesh Meshram's personality and rather aspire to be an inspiring personality just like him. Mr. Mukesh Meshram's life itself has been under a lot of stress, but I tell you, he's beaten all of that stress and pressure that he has been through. And he, because of beating this pressure and the stress, he is where he is today because of that. So may I, of course, I extend very warm welcome to Mr. Mukesh Mishra, but may I now request Mr. Mishra to please address this gathering and give us a keynote. Mr. Meshram, over to you.
Thank you very much, Prateek ji. It's really very challenging and trying times for all of us. It's unprecedented in the history of humanity after 100 years of gap. Certainly, we are coping up with the situation, the whole world per se, not only our country, but there are many countries who are passing through this tough stage. It's tough, difficult, challenging, but it's not going to stay here for a long time. That for sure, everyone, all of us should hope for the best. And this kind of situations, this kind of tough times, they also teach us many lessons. And each and every lesson of life is really a treasure for our history. It becomes a particular chapter in the history for the whole humanity, because we have seen it closely, we have watched it closely. Before this post, I was working in the field as a divisional commissioner of Lucknow. I have seen the hordes of people coming from migrant laborers coming from different states back to Uttar Pradesh, not in hundreds, but in lakhs, and almost more than 35 lakhs migrant laborers we brought in the state from different states by trains, special trains, by special buses, because they were coming barefoot, on foot, with the families, with the luggage, whatever they were possessing that time. So all such kind of situations arose, uh, which is really tough. But certainly for all of us, we have to think different kind of dimension, that the humanity came closer, the families, they actually enjoy the life what the family should have, because after IT and the introduction of different gadgets and different kind of informatics systems, Facebook, social media, so many things. Actually, we were there in this physical world, but most of us were in the virtual world. There was a level of non-interactive mode. There was a situation when the family members themselves had little time for their own near and dears. So ultimately, lockdown situation, it brought everyone close by. Everyone became how to share their problems, how to share their worries, and ultimately it resulted into some positivity also. The younger ones, the children, they could get time to interact with their elderly, their grandparents, their parents, and everybody joining together. They enjoyed this period also. That is certainly a positive thing. Hospitality and tourism, it has its own toll for very bad impact in this sector certainly. But we bought this time, particularly in our state, to plan, to design, to develop infrastructural facilities, develop post-COVID facilities, so that immediately after this time, once travelers come back, revert to their normal core of tourism, they will see a change in various destinations, travel destinations. Same way, for students also, because uh, they might be finding it difficult, not only the students of this particular sector, travel and tourism, but also different segments or different branches of our studies. Everyone is passing through the same kind of situation. But here, since aviation sector, hospitality sector, um, most of the units are closed, are working with very minimal kind of resources or minimal kind of gas. So ultimately, this sector is also not needing a lot of manpower or interns for that matter. Now, the tourist will have different kind of experiential tourism. They will go beyond the crowded places in near future. They want to explore the nature. That I have seen, I have spoke to many of them, and I have realized that people are going to Kashmir, they are going to Uttarakhand, Himachal, they are going to national parks, forests, seashores, and particularly ecotourism is flourishing very fast that way. Same way, village tourism, ethnic tourism, and different areas where we might not have seen the past years that kind of number of tourists. Ultimately, when I spoke to some of the tourists, they told me that they want to explore the nature because there it is. See, for two reasons. Number one, certainly now everybody has become health conscious. Oxygen, its role, its importance has been realized by each and every person. So when there is air quality index beyond 200, beyond 250 in many of the cities, certainly it is a good relief that they visit the places where it is at least below 100. Ideally, it should have been below 50, but air quality index, we have to ensure even in the cities, but at least if people are moving from these polluted and crowded places and they are searching for some good atmosphere, good environment that lies there in the nature itself. So Earth Ganga is a big concept coming up in our state also, and we are certainly trying to explore from Balia to Bijnor what kind of opportunities we can foresee, what kind of possibilities we can see, and we can develop these places which are on the banks of Ganga. There we can create Ganga villages. We can serve ethnic food or organic food to the tourists, and then wellness center. Second is wellness tourism. Panchkarma Ayurveda, it has established its own importance, like the whole yoga system, which is our heritage, but for years there was a gap. We forgot many of the systems. Again, it is redefined in new forms. Ayush Ministry and Ayush Department, they have started the possibilities of developing wellness centers and yoga centers. Same way, Tourism Department, Uttar Pradesh has come up with its own state tourism policy 2018, under which we are trying to promote wellness tourism also. And whosoever uh, sets up wellness center, we are ready to provide them subsidy. We are ready to provide them fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. So we can promote this idea of bringing investment in Uttar Pradesh. We can certainly attract good number of investors in Uttar Pradesh, and gradually then only we will be able to generate employment. We will be able to generate revenue for the state. See, in the world, there are many countries survive only on the tourism. There are many countries, small countries, but only and only tourism is a big economic activity in those countries. Now, after realizing the impact of COVID, they have started uh, bringing back the tourists. Maldives, one of my journalist friend from Mumbai, he visited Maldives recently, and he posted lot of photographs from Maldives. Maldives embassy and the government of Maldives, they have invited all the journalists to visit their country and then publicize it through articles, through travelogues to different people so that they go to visit Maldives. Same way, US has already started different kind of activities. Education tourism is a big sector in the economy of US, and this time they have started bringing back all the students to US universities. They have started issuing F1 visas in a big number. And if you go to embassies or you ask the students how was the interview for visa, and they will say that nothing checked. The embassy person, either they ask very simple two questions: how they are going to fund the education and which university they are going to. That's all. And immediately they issued the visa. So ultimately, every country will realize its importance. Every country, sooner, later, whatever the time will come, they will realize the importance of hospitality industry, aviation industry, and the tourism, and they will try to normalize the situation their own. Because for how long we will fear this particular disease after herd immunity, which lot of scientists have or epidemiologists have started discussing about it, that it has become or it has converted into herd immunity as what happened to Spanish flu 100 years back. And same way, the countries which have started vaccination soon, they have also started many other activities very soon. So there are countries which have opened up for the tourists. India will also come to that stage. A big vaccination drive is on. The government of India and state governments, everyone has started thinking on these lines. And the moment we cross over more than 50% of vaccination of our population, certainly we will open up many other activities. Of course, COVID-2 was disastrous just because of its more infectious quality, and secondly, we were not the preparedness was not that extent which we should have been otherwise. See, there are countries spend more than 10% of GDP in health sector. There are countries, and Alma Ata declaration also specifies that at least 6% of GDP should go in the health sector. In our country, unfortunately, we have touched 2%. Now, post-COVID has also taught us this lesson that the government sector should focus on developing health infrastructure, and that we are doing. So soon we will be able to face all these challenges, and with this positive thought, with this positive note, I appeal and I tell all the students that कोई डरने की बात नहीं है. जो पुरानी हिंदी में कहावत है, जो डर गया सो मर गया. डरना तो है ही नहीं. मैं जहां से आता हूं, सी आई बॉर्न एंड ब्रॉट अप इन द नेचुरल सराउंडिंग, एकदम जंगल के अंदर. मैं रियलाइज नहीं कर सकता था कि यहां तक मैं पहुंचूंगा, बिकॉज आई हैड टू ट्रेवल 5 किलोमीटर्स थ्रू a dense forest and through a river reach to my school. स्कूल मतलब बहुत छोटे एज में, 11 साल 12 साल. फिर I appeared in engineering exam after 12th, of course. So engineering किया. सोच नहीं सकता था उस गांव में जहां भैंस चराता था मैं, तो शाम को स्कूल से जा करके कि IIT रुड़की पहुंच जाऊंगा, या वहां से इसरो पहुंच जाऊंगा, विक्रम साराभाई स्पेस सेंटर, और वहां से होता हुआ IAS में आ जाऊंगा. कौन सोचता है? एंड थ्रू आउट माई लाइफ I have seen more difficult situations, but I faced it. और जैसे भगवान के ऊपर, आप ईश्वर के ऊपर भरोसा रखते हैं, सारी प्रॉब्लम्स को दूर करने के लिए वो बैठा है. वो टेस्ट कर रहा है कि हमारे बच्चे डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशन को फेस कर पाते हैं या नहीं कर पाते हैं. दिस इज अ टेस्ट, एक एग्जाम है हमारे लिए, और हम इस एग्जाम को पास कर लें. जिंदगी के एग्जाम तो पास होती रहती है, स्पिरिचुअल एग्जाम है ये हमारे स्पिरिट को हाई लेवल पर ले जाने की एग्जाम. ये हमारे माइंड के लेवल को टॉप लेवल पर ले जाने के लिए एग्जाम है. अदरवाइज अक्सर ये होता है कि अगर इस एग्जाम किसी ने पार कर लिया तो आने वाली कई पीढ़ियों को बताएगा कि हम उस वक्त से गुजरे हैं जो वक्त बेटा तुमने भी नहीं देखा होगा या न देखोगे. होपफुली वो न देखें. इस हिसाब से हम सबको we have to come together, we have to solve these situations together, and post COVID we have to be ready together so that we will sail through difficult time and we will excel in our life, in our sphere of work and our sector, certainly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Meshram. Very pertinent points, I think, because these are the situation that we all were depressed. And I tell you, I don't know about the students who have joined us, but I am quite charged up and quite inspired by this last part of your address, and it fills me with energy and hope for the future. So when it gets tough, the tough gets going. That's the message that you have given. And I'm delighted to inform the audience and to Mr. Mishram that today we have been joined by at the moment we have 3,123 participants with us, and about 1,500, which is 50% of them, are students from different universities and teachers from around the globe. So this is a very important aspect that Mr. Meshram has mentioned, and I'm sure the students who are in a stress, like all of us in the industry, have been able to, at least, he has been able to help you come out of your stress a bit, if not all. Continuing with this webinar, we have our moderator for the day, Dr. Anupama Srivastava, and I've already given the introductions of all the panelists that we have today. So now it's over to you, Anupama, for this further.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prateek. Just to put in a few words, Mr. Prateek has given very passionately years of his life to tourism, not only in terms of being one of the most important operators today in India, but also he has given his expertise in the field of academics. So I'm so glad, sir, that you have given this platform through FICCI and UP Tourism also, so that we can discuss these key issues with the students. So just to move ahead with the event, I'll just place the sequence for you. So I request our expert panelists to share a few words with the students, because after all, this entire program today is based for the students. So welcome students, and let's hear it from our expert panel, and let us share their experience, and let us see how together we can move through this pandemic and difficult situation. So in this, I first request Ms. Divya Agnihotri. She is an expert and deals with COVID situations, and I request Ms. Divya to address the audience now.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Anupama, for that, for those kind words. And honored to be a part sharing this virtual stage with such an elite list of panelists. Stress is something that we hear very often, and we've grown up hearing this word, and at the drop of the hat, people use this term. But this last 1.5 years has actually shown us what stress can be like. I would thank Mr. Mishra for having those positive words. Otherwise, listening to the facts and figures which were shared by Mr. Prateek, it was scary. But do we understand stress? Do we actually understand what impact it has on the mind? Something that is stressful for me could not be stressful for another person. So then, if a situation is bad, it is bad for all. So why does it create stress in one and not in the other? The reason is stress is self-induced. The reason could be our own personal experiences, personal expectations from ourselves. The reason could be the peer pressure, parental pressure, or by large in India, the societal pressure that is created on people that their career define their merit, their success rate. If we talk about students today, probably they are the ones who are lost. No sense of direction for them because they don't see a future for themselves. Those who are already in the profession like us, we've proven ourselves. We've gone through it. We've worked on it. So probably that gives us some amount of confidence that yes, we can do it again. They still have to test themselves. And in this scenario, where in the current situation they are in, it seems to be very difficult. But the point is, this situation has taught us a lot. The first and foremost thing that we've learned from this situation is adaptability. Humans, we are a generation, we are a race that can very easily adapt to new situations. There have been so many instances in the history: the Spanish flu, 2 world wars, the Great Depression, wherein situations where the world seemed to have ended. And we've bounced back way better than what we were before that. For the students today, the one and the most important thing is that you've seen the worst and things are going to be better from here. They're going to just improve from here on. And this is an interim period for you to build on yourself, because my observations and my analysis of the students, the changes that have been happening in their attitude, in their overall skills over the last 1.5 years of virtual education is that they're losing on their social skills. And I believe in tourism, this happens to be one of the most important aspects. Your social skills, how you interact with people, how you can handle people. Students have started losing interest, focus because of the stress level. The key is to keep yourself focused, to keep yourself engaged, to keep yourself involved in different activities. Bring up a hobby. Get involved in something which is close to nature. that will keep that skill alive in you and pull out that stress factor from your life. Momentarily, it will come back, pull it back out. That is the way to deal with it. And on that note, thank you, Anupama. And I would like to hand it over to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Divya, for giving the students a perspective of what can be done in this pandemic situation. And I would now request Mr. Anupama Srivastava, the Director, FHRAI, and also with a vast experience in academics in the hospitality sector, to share his words with the students.
Thank you, Anupama ji. In fact, I have been principal from last 25 years, and we had never seen or thought about this kind of situation that will be there. In the first, I was in Jodhpur, then I came to Institute of Hotel Management, Lucknow for 10 years, where Mishram sir is now the chairman of that institute, then Mumbai. And when in March 2020, this situation started, even we were not in position to think what to do, because our hospitality education, our hotel management education is a skill-based education, where almost 60 to 65% content is skill-based. It took us about 1 week to understand the situation and then act accordingly. But what we did, that we in fact fought in two platforms. One is the faculty, because we all are aware about the online education, all this, but hardly any institute had experienced this before the COVID. Though the platform was available, things were available. So what we did, we organized the program for the faculty to just make them familiar with the different tools which had to be required for the online learning. And then our bigger responsibility was the student, because you can imagine it was the month of March 20, and when 90% of our IHM Mumbai, which is the first and the biggest and largest institute of the hotel management in the country, 90% of our students have already been placed, and they were about to go to the industry by the end of April, and then suddenly this problem came. So what we did, we tried to talk with the company and different hotel group, the Taj Group, Oberoi, ITC and others, and we requested them not to cancel the offer that has been given. If the situation is difficult, they can just linger on, they can give some more time to the student to join when the situation improves. On the other hand, we tried to approach to the other businesses, allied businesses who were willing to come to IHM Mumbai for the placement, but we so because of the almost 100% placement, we are not entertaining them. Then we suddenly approached to them and asked them online or offline interview. A reasonable number of students has been selected. And then we started a new thing there. We discussed with the industry experts, and we organized about 2-minute session. They speak about the industry about 2-3 minutes, and we incorporated about 16 to 17 vice president and general managers, which has been clips of that has been circulated to different IHM in the country. We also asked two things to the student. First thing is the time to follow their passion. We asked the photographies, we had organized the photographic online session, storytelling and other thing. And we organized some online classes for the languages, maybe the local language or the foreign language, just to engage them, so that the negative thought should not do not come in their mind. So it was the thing that we did. And finally, the thing which was looking very bleak in the month of March, by the end of May or June, it has been a little bit improved last year. And this year, we were fully equipped to how to handle the situation in 2021, and we tried to do our best in the given situation and try to satisfy the need of the student. So that's the point I want to say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arun. You have really taken various measures to handle the situation that was created by the pandemic. So I now request Professor Sheila Hamid, Professor Tourism of Aligarh Muslim University, to share her thoughts with the students and the listeners.
Thank you, Anupama, for giving me the opportunity. And I'll just take a second to thank the organizers, especially Mr. Pratik Hira, to have invited us over here and to give us a platform to share our views. Now, as we already know that the coronavirus pandemic has hit hard on the mental health of young adults who are dealing with disruptions to education, work, and of course, social lives. Actually, college students are more vulnerable than we think, especially with the current academic and financial burden. And as Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory teaches us, that without feelings of safety, esteem, and a sense of connection, it becomes difficult for students to focus on academics. The feeling of being labeled as COVID batch, that is the ones who took online classes, is very intimidating. Their degree may be complete, but without practical skills. No study tours, no on-the-job training, no practical classes. This loss makes them feel very inferior. Going from one of the world's major income generators to a struggling industry in a matter of months, the students in hospitality and tourism are in a dilemma, whether to change their sector or wait for tourism industry to regain its earlier status. And that is not all. The further dilemma is, will the industry consider or prefer employing these batches who studied online? Generation COVID is facing unprecedented challenges, but at the same time, I'm very sure that they are uniquely resilient enough to meet these challenges. And I would bring again and highlight the views of Mr. Mukesh Mishra over here, that there is no need to fear. The world has seen so many challenges and adversities before, but in the end, nothing lasts forever. So resilience is the only answer. Thank you, Anupama.
Thank you so much, Professor Shiva. That was really important, remembering that we should be resilient in these difficult times. Over now to Dr. Praveen Singh Rana, Professor of Tourism in Varanasi University. So,
thank
Dr.
you.
Praveen,
Thank you, ma'am.
welcome to the.
And thank you, organizers, FICCI, UP Tourism, and UP Government, especially Principal Secretary and FICCI Chairman. As Professor Hamid said and Dr. Arun sir said, that we all are struggling, whether it is a teacher, student, or those who are managing universities and educational institutes. But what I felt during lockdown 1 and lockdown 2, the two different kind of experiences, especially what is happening with the students and teachers. So as per my experience is that most of the time in lockdown 1 was gone in learning the various technical skills, whether this technical skills start from video presentation or recording, uploading, learning how to operate online platform like Zoom, Meet, Team, WebEx, whatever. Then we've started learning how to create e-content, learning management system, learning several courses through Coursera, Unacademy, MIT. So almost like everybody, even student, teachers, everybody was busy in learning those skills. And even those software providers, platform providers were also struggling of this huge sudden demand of the services. So as per my view, the first lockdown was gone in learning those skills. What happened in second lockdown? Now it is time for implementation of those learnings. But now India, of course, we have started Digital India, but still rural India is lacking so much of digital infrastructure. So what happened? We started struggling in implementing those skills, but still, since we have to conduct examinations, so a new module of open book examination started in universities, which was never ever imagined. All the scripts were on digital mode, and the teacher has to take care of all management of all 100 plus one section digital scripts. So it was completely a different kind of ambience during lockdown too. What happened actually in this learning of technical aspects, that the in-depth subject knowledge started somewhere missing and derailed. So we are focused in learning technical skills more, and in-depth subject knowledge was gone. And tourism is, of course, no doubt one among that. Uh, Generally, tourism require more of practical sessions and so many other things, software learning, all, all were missing. So even many of them who have not yet experienced the university campuses, and now they'll be crowned with the degree. As Arun sir said that they are pass out, job placement is there, but still struggling to get inside. So this is how it leading to, I don't know what will happen to if there is a wave 3, but of course we are better prepared for wave 3, but what will happen to the batch which has almost ready to pass out during the lockdown? So this was my opening remarks. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Rana. That was really important. We should remember that we should go ahead with our knowledge collection rather than, we should try to have a mix of technical skills as well as knowledge together. And we now move to our next expert, Mr. Eric Holiday, Director, UK University Recruitment Wales, Beckles, all the way for us. And Mr. Eric, please do share your views with the viewers.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to you in many parts of the world. It's a great pleasure to be invited to this event today, and thank you, FICCI and the government of UP, and also to Prati Hira, who's put a lot of work into organising it. Anyway, I would find it hard to argue with anything that I've heard this morning. There clearly is stress in just about every aspect of everyone's lives these days. And unexpectedly, no one expected the COVID virus to have a effect such as it has had. But as far as tourism is concerned, and we over here have suffered, we've had no business now since March 2020, and it's given us a time to reflect. And I think that anyone that's been wondering whether they really want to become involved in tourism, hospitality, travel in any form, whether that's the right decision for them, I would say yes, it probably is, because things are going to change. They're going to change in a way that was probably not anticipated just 2 years ago. But now, any youngsters that are thinking about their future, there is a future in tourism, and they should not shy away from studying this particular topic, because they are going to be the future of tourism. And that can only be a good thing, that the youngsters are encouraged, because there are a lot of people around who still have their jobs, and they can encourage the youngsters to take up a career in tourism. But there are various aspects of this whole studying. One is the universities, they've had to change. We've had to change as tour operators. And students themselves have got to decide whether indeed they should travel or think about traveling abroad to study. Now, tourism courses exist in universities all over the world. In our case, in Wales, there are some very good universities who have tourist courses available. Thought has had to be given about online courses, and that thought process is presumably still going on. But anyway, that the thought of having to come or travel to a university in a foreign country is itself a stressful situation, and we can try and alleviate that by making certain arrangements for anyone thinking about doing a course in Wales, to enable them to see what they're coming to, the campus, the facilities offered, the accommodation that they will be available to them, and the general area, and of course the wider area of Wales, which is a country that has appealed to a lot of people when they've found it for the first time. I think Mr. Hira is one of those people. So yeah, it's not. There is help if someone is thinking of travelling abroad, help for the families and the students. And we're here to do what we can in our small way to make the life of a student that much better and that much easier and less stressful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eric, for your encouragement and giving us access to actually, if you're thinking of studying in the UK, Wales especially, Mr. Eric is there to help you out. So thank you so much for joining us in this session. And over now to our last expert today, Dr. Anushli Banerjee. She is into the field of academics, been teaching tourism for a very long time now, as well as she's now the director of MKITM and working with the Pradesh government. Tourism. Over to you, Anushli.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I want to thank you for inviting me to this platform and making me a part of this eminent panel. As I have been part of the industry for quite a long time, I understand the needs of the industry. And now being the director of MKITM, I totally associate with the students. Mental stress can affect students' motivation, concentration, and social interactions, which are crucial factors for the students to succeed in higher education. Due to the long-lasting pandemic situation and strenuous measures, such as lockdown and stay-at-home orders, the COVID-19 pandemic brings negative impacts on higher education especially. A large number of students are affected because of a prolonged break from their academic activities and by staying at home. They were and are not able to meet their social needs, which is an important aspect according to the Maslow's need hierarchy, as Professor Sheba Hamid also stated about the first two needs. I will add on to that and I'll state about the third stage of the theory, that the third level of human need is being social, and it involves the feeling of belongingness. Belongingness, it's of course the human emotional need for interpersonal relationships, affiliating, connectedness to one another, and being part of a group. The need of relations and friends are very important for the development of one's personality. No outing, no teamwork, no brainstorming sessions, no group discussions has resulted in the loss of a sense of belongingness for the students. So we are here to have a great session with you all, and I'm really looking forward towards it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Anushli, and I'm sure the students will look forward to this, round of question answer session that we're going to begin with. And in this line, I request the panelists to now address a few relevant questions related to the pandemic, the students, and tourism, and probably stress. So let us see how we can give solutions for the betterment of the future professionals in our field. So the first question I would like to address to Ms. Divya. Ms. Divya, please share with all the youngsters who have joined us today how exactly they can overcome this stressful situation which has been created due to the pandemic, and what they can do with their career choices.
Okay, thank you, Anupama, for that question. First of all, for the students, you are already into a professional course. There is a path that you've already selected. There has been a gap, definitely. Going by just a few interactions with people who are into recruitment, one positive thing that I've heard around is that recruitments, whatever meager are happening, they are for the freshers, because companies are downsizing. Rather than affording a person who has years of experience and but costs them higher, they prefer to bring in students who are freshers, yet all charged up, want to prove themselves, make a point and of their merit that they can do in something. So that's a positive thing that you need to think about. As far as what to do in the interim period, but two major things: upskilling yourself, reskilling yourself. Polish your skills, upskill yourself. I'm not a tourism expert, but as an outsider, as an educator, for tourism, I think languages could be something that you could upskill yourself on. There could be social interactions, courses, the students that I teach, what we've done, just they create groups. They might just log in and chat. There are sessions wherein during my teaching transactions, I stop teaching and we're just having a chat just to develop on their social skill, which might appear to be a wastage of time that I'm not using my academic time for the academics, but ultimately it is working on them. It is working on them to help them enhance their social skills. So this is very important. Plus, build up a hobby. Don't let stress take over on you. Just develop a hobby. That's going to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that helps the students.
Definitely it will, I'm sure. Already many of the students must have picked up a few hobbies to work upon. So the next question I would like to address to Mr. Anupama Singh. So I want you to address the job prospects, how the job prospect due to the pandemic has been affected in the hospitality industry especially.
Thank you. Obviously, job prospects was very badly affected in the hospitality industry, and it is a fact. There's no point of hiding it. But the only thing is that is possible. We have to cut down. We have to see the way how we can give them alternate jobs, or like, for example, we all IHMs of the Government of India, we promoted the master's education in hospitality sector. Till last year, most of our students are being placed by doing the bachelor program. So very less number of students were opting for the management for the masters, and therefore the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India has decided this year to increase the seats of the master from about 100 to 300. So a reasonable number of students are going to do the master's degree so that at least they can be engaged. They can be engaged for time being. They will do the higher qualification and may go to the industry after 2 years. So that was the one thing. The second thing is we try to rope in the alumni associations, the people who are having their own ventures or entrepreneurs, to involve the students with that and try to engage them in what best possible way. So that was the point, that we need to see that how best possible are the different areas where we were not coming to the institute till now for the placement. We had gone to the Reliance and other industries for their brands, for the marketing and others, even the digital marketing and all those things. Because the one thing is that attitude, personality, and the language and communication is there among the students. So most of the industry which were requiring these qualities, they came forward in online and offline interviews. But definitely it has affected, and it will remain affected for a certain time. Please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arun. That I'm sure will be useful for all the hospitality students, and it is, I think, very pro students what you have done. So, Professor Shiva, can you suggest how you helped your students to cope up with this very difficult situation?
Yes, thank you so much, Anupama, for this question. I'm very happy you asked me this. Now, keeping in mind the current issues and concerns of the students, I make sure that I myself look and sound relaxed while interacting with them virtually. I studied the pattern of distance learning programs and tried to adopt the same pattern. I make sure to send them fascinating videos, articles, news pieces, etc. on WhatsApp group, and pose open-ended questions to stir their minds, so that they engage in a long conversation and are able to express their opinions. And while doing all this, they also express their stress and their worries and their tensions and their fears. So what I aim at is letting them speak out their fears. That is very important. As Divya just said, that even during the academic time, if you go a little offbeat, I mean, it serves the purpose. And we have done almost everything in online classes that we used to do in offline mode: group presentations, individual presentations, quiz, discussions. And I have observed that by engaging them online meaningfully and regularly, they feel happy. I have assured them that they can talk to me and sort out their mixed up feelings anytime they need to, because a healthy student is a productive student. And yes, I insist on switching on their cameras during class. And even if they appear a little unpresentable, I never reprimand them for that. But I definitely share an incident or anecdote on being presentable, just to make them realize. And also because I want them to follow routine, even if they are at home. Whenever a student needs me, I ensure that I'm available, because the more students feel supported and valued as they're struggling to maintain a positive outlook during these times, the more likely they are to stay physically and mentally healthy. The point is to be nicer to them, to be more, reachable for them, giving them, friend's ear, and assuring them all the time that this is not going to last forever. And we all have to learn skills to survive these adversities, because just like fire is the test of gold, adversity is of strong men. So these are testing times, but we have to pass through fire to become gold. That is how I try to engage and enliven and assure my students. I don't know how far I have succeeded, but I'm sure that they will reach out to me if they're ever stressed out, and I hope that I'm able to sort their mixed up feelings. That's the only thing I think what a teacher can do, sitting on a computer and looking at their students on screen. So this is what I have tried, Anupama.
Well, that's wonderful, Professor Shiva. That is a commendable task that you've undertaken, and helping out the students in this challenging situation. So over to Dr. Praveen. I'll just move a little, I'll deviate from the question slightly. Now, Banaras is one of the most sought after destinations of India. Now, how would you compare between what happened yesterday in tourism, particularly what the situation is today, and what you foresee for tomorrow, keeping in mind the COVID scenario?
From stress to Banaras, that was interesting to know that especially the city has really a unique space in Indian tourism. And in number wise, if you see, although it may not look like, okay, in Uttar Pradesh, Agra is such a big destination, that it covers like many smaller destinations. Banaras is one among, although it is like attracting almost like 65 lakhs footfall by Indian tourists and 3 to 4 lakhs of international tourists in last 2019 pre-COVID season. So that was a huge number for a city like Varanasi, which is geographically and area-wise quite small, but attraction-wise it is very big. But luckily, being a constituency of our Prime Minister, many activities were already going on pre-COVID time. I'd like to highlight that in addition to tourism attraction, which almost like all the tour operators sells in Varanasi, Ghats and Sarnath, that is the most popular thing we sell in industry. But when a new schemes like Hriday and Prasad was included Varanasi city, then people have started, all stakeholders started thinking that what kind of moderation, renovation changes face of the Varanasi we can do. So that government schemes start, but it takes long time. So in addition to Hriday and Prasad, you might have heard about the prestigious project of Vishwanath Dham corridor, or even Ghats of Banaras renovation, or very recently that convention center was inaugurated by PM himself. So this was a project which was already going on pre-COVID period. So Banaras was already active, that the face of Banaras should not be only Ghats and Sarnath. So this was already going on with the normal pace, or you can say a little bit higher side of that. But what happened when the COVID arrived? Of course, everything was stopped. But at the same time, when the government have started relaxing all the rules and regulation, the city administration took a great opportunity to work on these massive projects, because there was very less load on this site. No visitor international, no very less number of local visitor. So they took this opportunity by taking some permission that why not in this lockdown period, unlockdown period, we can complete most of the major tasks. And what happened that almost we are going to see that such a prestigious projects on Varanasi, most probably what government is saying is going to complete within this year. So in 2022, what we are expecting that third wave will be gone, so much of vaccination has been done, herd immunity must have reached, and tourism will start. So when tourism will start, Banaras is ready for that with a new infrastructure, new faces. But in addition to that, I would like to highlight that what is the future of tourism in Varanasi? Because as I have already mentioned, that till now Varanasi has been sold with a few tourism attractions. Now, government, tourism association, private players, including FICCI, IATO, Tourism Welfare Association, they have started thinking that we have to expand Varanasi for tourism respect. And how to expand? So we've started working that what could be the other additional attraction in and around Varanasi. So earlier focus was Varanasi city only. Now it has been refocused as Varanasi and around Varanasi. So we have started working and we found that within 2 hours of distance from Varanasi road, I'm talking about road distance, we can reach to so many beautiful destinations related to history or whatever, which can be covered from Varanasi, and that can add on value of Varanasi. Let me highlight few one. Places like Jaunpur, which is like very good for Sirki dynasty architecture marvels, but nobody was visiting from Varanasi to Jaipur. The new Vindhyachal corridor is coming and most probably going to complete within a year. There is a Chunar fort, Mughal time fort, which was occupied by the police, PAC people, but no further actual activity of tourism was taking place. So these kind of things were identified. The new trends in tourism in the world is like one of the tourism is called geotourism or geo-heritage, which is not at all popular in India. But you'll be surprised to know that only 2 hours distance from Varanasi, there is Salkhan Fossil Park, which is considered that it is one of the most important fossil among the world, even if you compare to several fossil parks in US. But there is no proper road to approach. So, but city administration of Sonbhadra started working with the tourism people. So such kind of new potential sites we have already working. Tourism operators of Varanasi have working. During this unlocked period, we have started visiting, talking to the city admin that how tourists who are visiting to Varanasi can be also shown to this destination, and this will add on Varanasi. So this is how we are trying to change the face of Varanasi. So no doubt in future, when we will be completely on, Banaras is going to start tourism with a very new, different kind of phase, not only focusing on pilgrimage and religious tourism, but ecotourism, geotourism, camp tourism, and it's going to be, and the new development of Varanasi, Allahabad, Lucknow, and Ayodhya, connecting these all, the new routes will be discovered. So Varanasi is going to take the tourism opportunity
Exactly.
in 2022, like anything. Yeah, thank you.
That is a beautiful picture that you have given us. So students, food for thought. You should start working on these specialized sectors which are going to soon open up. So our next question is to Mr. L. And looking at the relationships that we've always had with the United Kingdoms, what does studying in United Kingdom have in store, especially for the tourism hospitality students from India? What opportunities lie there?
Obviously, each university has its own take on things, but the one main university that we work with here is very forward-thinking, and it allows a great degree of entrepreneurship amongst these students that come and study there. And after listening to what Dr. Rana has just said, the course over here probably wouldn't take into account all of the things that need to be done in India to promote the new developments in India that Dr. Rana was just talking about. So this is where the universities should be encouraged to think about how the students, well, not the universities so much, but the students should think about how they can begin to promote India in a way which brings into play all of the new things that are happening there. It's the old ways have changed, and students, having gone through a course, even if it's online and partly online and partly actually present, they should have an opportunity to think for themselves just how can they play a role in the future promotion of India. They'll have the academic side of it for their business management or whatever, but that's only part of it. The important part is physically promoting what is happening in India now, because if we don't know over here, then no one's going to know. We have to know what is happening there, because that is the only way that India can be properly promoted. I think that's probably all I can say about that as far as Wales Beckons is concerned.
So,
okay, thank you.
Our students, thank you, Mr. Eric. I'm sure with you representing us, we will have a wonderful promotion of India, and definitely the students are going to benefit from this. And the question now is for Dr. Anushli. Now, you have been working with UP Tourism, and you've also been associated with academics. So what steps will the Department of Tourism in Uttar Pradesh take to train the much needed, human resource? So can we have your views, please?
That's a very wonderful question for me, ma'am. As far as the human development of skills about the human resource we're talking about, in association with the Department of Tourism, MKITM is committed towards the skill development of the students associated with the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry in particular. Presently, we are undergoing a training of local level guides, and we are training almost 300 students, or we can say guides, from the state itself, who after successful completion of this course will be getting guide licenses and will be self-employed in their native place only. The best part of this is that they don't even have to migrate for the search of employment and earning for their livelihood. Secondly, as the pandemic has literally stopped functioning of the whole world, so we were stressing on small short-term courses for the students, so that by the time the pandemic ends and the industry is again gaining on their roots, the students should be ready with some added skills. And taking this in view, MKITM has recently signed an MOU with Alliance Française. And in collaboration with them, we are planning to start few language courses for French, so that the guides or the students will be able to serve better for the inbound tourists who are visiting India and Uttar Pradesh in particular. And short-term certificate courses are also being planned for the domestic and international ticketing and all, which will be industry-oriented and will prove to be a boon for the students and make them industry ready. Thank you.
That's really interesting, Dr. Anushli, and we look forward to the government introducing these very important skill programs for open for guides and students. So back now to Ms. Divya once again. Now, with your expertise in the new education policy, which the government has come up with, how will NEP, how will NEP contribute in enhancing professional skills in students?
Thank you, Anupama. First of all, new education policy. This is the third education policy that has been introduced by the government of India since independence. The last one being in 1986, which was revised in 1992. So basically, till date, we've been teaching the millennials in a pattern or with a curriculum or style which was of the previous century. So the new education policy is a very welcome change. The most important thing being the introduction of vocational education in middle school level. In professional education, we see at many a times that children join a course because it seemed to be very attractive or lucrative from outside. They were attracted or because of just the whole group deciding to go ahead with it. But once they've joined in, they realize that it's not their cup of tea and they just walk out of it. With vocational education being introduced in middle school level, this gives them a scope to experiment with things and be more clear as to what their area of interest and approach towards career is going to be like. So that will give them a sense of direction in the first place when they are joining. Tourism is actually a subject which is offered in +2 level, though not sought after. And probably I believe that is one of the major reasons why tourism in India appears to be majorly the unorganized sector. So taking up tourism in the school level will definitely add to this, and any other professional course. So this vocational education of the NEP is actually very positive approach towards guiding students from a very early stage towards career choices. Thank you.
That's wonderful and much needed change, I'm sure. And even at the higher education level, the NEP is introducing lots of vocational courses and skill-based programs, and that is very encouraging for this generation. Now, once again, Mr. Arun, we come back to you. So, when do you expect that the hospitality industry will reach the pro-COVID level of business? That means, when will we be able to overcome this situation? What is your expectation?
In fact, the tourism industry is the first industry which has been hit by the COVID and probably the last one to recover. But at the same time, the pace of recovery will be very good. We hope that the thing will improve, as we have seen in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, the movement of the people that was there in last 1 month. But at the same time, we have to be very cautious when our vaccination drive will reach to 50% or so. Then instead of revenge tourism, we will call it responsible tourism. People will go out and the opportunities are going to be there. I hope by the mid 2022, we will cross the pre-COVID level of the business in hospitality. But in the meantime, we have to engage the students in such a way, like in COVID, about 100 of our students in different IHM started cooking and selling food from their home. So a lot of students have came forward. It's hardly costing them anything, and some of them did well. And not in terms of money, but in terms of the experience that they got. It is not easy for them to understand. Like in Mumbai, we had one event that is Cornucopia, annual event, and we have a sale of about 8 lakh rupees just in 2 days. That event is entirely organized by the student, and the skill, I can proudly say that whatever they learn in that 1 week, I think they cannot learn even 1 year in the institute in regular classes. So this kind of exposure, like recently we have started I became active after retirement on LinkedIn, and I have 1,000 link with me, follow with me connections, and out of 1,000, I'm proudly say 700 or plus of them are the students. I am more happy to connect with the student along with the professional. So every day we have, like the general manager Leela Bombay and me and other people have created a group on the LinkedIn, Help Hospitality Hopefuls. And we are putting about more than 100 vacancies every day. But we are getting, from the different sources and the LinkedIn, and people are getting benefit out of that and the experience. What we have little thing. 3 days back, I just put one note on the LinkedIn on my personal experience in the industry, and that has been seen by about 25,000 people. Most of them were students. So we have to engage the student, and industry will come back. Definitely, it may take some time, but it will come back in the same way as it was pre-COVID. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
That's really refreshing to hear, Mr. Arun. The future seems very bright for the students. And sir, I would request you to share in the chat the link, the LinkedIn link that you just talked about, so that more students can benefit out of it. So, Professor Sheeta, I once again come back to you. With your experience as an academician for so many years, for so many decades, what does the future have in store for the young aspirants? Maybe next year, this year, and the coming years.
Yes, Anupama, I'm a very optimistic person. And although these are very traumatic times, it divides life into before and after, before COVID and after COVID. And normally we face distressing times in life individually. But right now we are experiencing a traumatic period together. Let me begin by saying that this is the best time to study tourism, because students can be a part of industry's transformation. Though the industry may return slow, but students have to learn to tailor their job search to match opportunities. They have to learn to position themselves uniquely. They may look for areas that are non-traditional or even hybrid, where the impact is somewhat lesser. For example, rural resorts, eco-friendly destinations, golf clubs, etc. And another thing is that technology is here to stay. So they have to focus upon learning latest technology and using that to their fullest advantage. They need to enter wherever they can get a firm foothold and prove their ability to adapt, perform, and innovate even in restrictive conditions, till the industry weathers the storm and comes out stronger. Because today, people see travel not as a privilege, but as a right. And in a globalized world, traveling is required. That cannot change. And I'm 100% sure that will not change. You know, the might or the business tourism might come down a bit. Hybrid events, you know, may become a normalcy. But as far as leisure tourism and all other forms of tourism are concerned, I don't think people will ever compromise there. And not forgetting how incredibly powerful and resilient the hospitality and tourism industry has been. It overcame the 2008 financial crisis, and this time, I'm sure it will come back with a vengeance. So hold on, polish your skills, learn multitasking, and to survive, to earn money, anything can be done. But attachment, remain attached to your industry, whether it is giving you financial returns or not, but remain attached to it and wait. And very soon this waiting period will be over, and the students will get their jobs and they will get, you know, financial earnings from this industry very soon. As I said, and as all experts are saying, that the industry will come back with a vengeance. That is what I want to convey to the students over here.
That was really an optimistic viewpoint, and your optimism will flow through all the participants who are here and listening to you. Thank you so much, Professor Shiva. Now on to you, Mr. Rana. I come back to you. So as a carry forward of the earlier question that I put up to Professor Shiva, what anxieties did your students face, and what kind of activities did you do to overcome these stressful situations?
Thank you, ma'am. Before going to discuss about the anxiety and stress, I would like to highlight a recent research which is done by our department by taking tourism students all over India. We were interested to find out what are the motivation of students for joining tourism related courses. And the results were categorized into 7 points, that these are the 7 motivations for joining tourism courses. Now, when I compare those motivations with the stress, so it is like earlier, which was the factors which were motivating, and in absence of those motivations, the same factors is causing stress and anxiety. Let us take factor number 1. tourism gives a lot of job opportunity and a huge employment potential. What happened with this motivation? Now it is converted into stress because there is a very less job. Somehow, what Divya ma'am said that in many of the industries, freshers are given more a priority because they will get they'll be given less salary and more energy. But in tourism industry, what I have communicated that most of the seniors have lost their job. They are involved themselves in the banking, insurance, here and there. But we all know that what is the glamour of tourism industry. Nobody wanted to leave tourism industry despite of whatever stress. So they are eagerly waiting for returning back. So what will happen when industry will open, the experienced people might be in a lesser salary will return back, but for freshers, there are still some more struggling time because whatever salaries and job left by seniors will be only occupied by the tourism people. Now think about, we have already discussed that how uh, this affordability is another factor to join the tourism courses by a tourism student. Like, wherever you join tourism courses in any university, you can very easily afford, whether it is a cost wise or understanding wise or whatever. But somehow these affordability, the cost become higher because when we are operating online everything, then we need more gadgets, internet services, so many other things required. Earlier they go to the campuses and everything was there. So somehow the cost of affordability of these courses were also gone high, which is also making them more stress. Now, study easiness was factor that the courses and content of the tourism courses are somehow directly and indirectly related with the real life. You can go to the certain destination, everybody goes, everybody enjoy, learn, and these are the things which is part of our course curriculum. So of course this easy syllabus is there, but when this face-to-face was missing, so there was a great gap between the course content and learning thing. Now, self-exploration and self-reliance in tourism, we all know that as a teacher, as a traveler, that these courses provide you several opportunity to travel here and there, explore yourself. But this particular time has caused that they have gone to the loneliness. Self-exploration has been converted into soul exploration. And finally, if they haven't found anything, this their performance is causing this whole pressure is creating their performances into lower down. So they are losing their efficiency, creativity, and absenteeism, so many things. I'd just like to give an example. One day in my class, I asked one of the students why some sound is coming. He said, sir, मैं खेत में बैठ करके ट्राई कर रहा हूँ class करने के लिए. And internet services were not there in a village. So somehow he's trying to reach to those places where he can get the internet services. So naturally, everybody, especially government, has to think about this digital infrastructure. Now the next point is what I have suggested, especially with my student, that why not wherever you are, why not you are researching your local surrounding, because we always feel that we know everything about our area, but somehow I find that we know very little about local area. So I've involved my student in researching local surrounding. If you found something interesting, why not you are starting your own entrepreneurship activity? Now, government has a plan for a startup project. Our university also has a very good center for providing help to the student for a startup project. So some of the students have started, despite of searching for some job in other organization, they've started their own. So actually, they are trying to be vocal for local by doing research in a local area and trying to cope up with such kind of anxiety and stress in my institution. That was from my side, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Praveen. Vocal for local is really food for thought for all the youngsters listening to us. And again, Mr. Eric, I come back to you. definitely, dear viewers and panelists, the post-COVID surge in tourism is going to happen. So there's no doubt about that. All of us have reiterated it many times. So, Mr. Eric, how can students prepare to be industry ready?
Well, yes, I do agree that there will be a return. I think it's going to be a little while yet, a few months, but 2022, I think, is probably a good, hopeful time for things to start returning to normal. As far as students are concerned, it's a bit difficult for me in the position as far as Wales Beckons is concerned, because that will be inbound to Wales. But as far as students that want to stick with selling and promoting India, I would suggest that they learn what is happening, as Dr. Rana said, about different things in their locality and perhaps the wider area too, so that when they find a job, they can put what they found into practice and enhance their prospects of promotion within their job, or perhaps finding another job at a later date. They've got to apply themselves to finding out what India has to offer the wider world, because it doesn't always come across that India is a very good promoter of itself. It can do better, and I think that's why as I said, these students are starting now at a time that means that they're in at the bottom level, and they can only improve as time goes by. So they've got to stick with it, but learn at the same time what the outside world is looking for to entice the outside world to come to India. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. So again, students, food for thought. You can start your blogs, and you can promote the country to attract foreign tourists into, to come to India and grow tourism tenfold in the coming future. Finally, Dr. Anushli, the question to you: how can the government, the universities and college interface? How can this be enhanced to encourage students to pick up a career in tourism?
Thank you for the question, ma'am. As NKITM is already working under the flagship of Uttar Pradesh Tourism, government of UP, the government is taking various steps regarding this. Firstly, I should mention that the government has designed many courses for the unskilled human resource, be it the vendors, the dhaba owners, the coolies, the boatmen, the drivers. For them, short-term courses has been designed, and the major pull factor for this is that they are being given stipend for attending these training courses. These training courses not only help them to polish their skills, and also the soft skills are also trained to them, so that when they are dealing with the tourist, be it the domestic or the inbound tourist, they are ready and they are in a position to put their mark on their trip, so that they may remind of that, yes, this is the culture of UP or India. They can showcase us what we are actually and what is our culture is all about. Secondly, the tourism policy, which is in its place by the Tourism Department of Uttar Pradesh, has a clause in it of giving financial assistance for the recognized travel associations or hotel associations, hospitality bodies, to carry out research, market research studies on travel and tourism hospitality sector in Uttar Pradesh, which can become a very interesting thing. So because the people can come, or associations can come and do a market research on for the industry, and can come up with good ideas which can be implemented for the upliftment of the industry in short. Thirdly, I would also like to put in this fact that the government has also identified 12 major circuits in Uttar Pradesh, and intensive development works are being carried out throughout the state in view of increasing the tourist inflow. development of airports, heliports, major highways, hotels and resorts. This will be creating more job opportunities for the students. Better amenities and infrastructure will result in increasing number of tourists, which will in turn produce more opportunities for generation of employment. So I suppose government is bound and is working towards the upliftment of the industry, and I will surely expect that students take up tourism as a career and help us and help themselves also, so that we can really fight with this pandemic and come out with flying colors. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anushli. That was really nice. So we can really look forward to better things to happen very soon. So I would like to sum up the entire session. It's been very exciting to participate in this activity. And I think the best outcome of these 2 years, the pandemic situation, has been the creation of this platform. You know, there was always a gap between the industry and the academics and the government. So here's something that is building up, bridging up this gap. So I think this is a huge difference. These 2 years have given us, open perspectives, so many new things, hybrid situations, promoting ourselves, vocal for local, the government's taking interest in building projects, completing the projects. In the meanwhile, the students being encouraged to pick up skills, to polish themselves up, make themselves industry ready, look at the opportunities. So believe me, dear students, after every threat, there are multifold opportunities. So we can identify, we have already identified these threats. So how do you turn them into opportunities is what we have to do together. So let us refuel ourselves, let us recharge ourselves, and let us look forward to a wonderful tourism career. So with these few words, I think this is what our panelists have been trying to tell you in various ways. So let us together look forward to believing in the career that we have chosen. So thank you for this platform, dear organizers, UP Tourism, FICCI, and KITM. And over to you, Mr. Prateek.
Thank you, Anupama. It was indeed a very introspective session that we had today, and the points that were raised were quite pertinent and very, very important things that the panelists spoke today. And I personally believe that instead of finding answers, if even a few questions are found in a webinar or in such discussions, so probably our job is done as getting together and talking about these issues. So I think we have raised many questions as well, which in due course of time, they will help churn our minds, and they will find, people will find answers to them, and it will be all good. So overall, it was a wonderful session. And the session has also proven how worried and stressed teachers too are about their students, which students seldom think of, that their teachers are worried about them. And teachers, I think, are more stressed out than students after listening to all the panelists who are mostly teachers today, and they, on multiple fronts, teachers are facing stress. They face extended working hours, and sadly educational institutions in India seldom acknowledge the labor of teachers working online as they would when it was all physical teaching in the classrooms. Perhaps online teaching from home needs more recognition than the physical teaching from the institutions. Respect for personal time has almost gone missing in this pandemic online world. The holidays are not being counted, or excessive internet dependence is there. And add to it the home front, where often the families themselves are on online mode. So my heart goes out to the teachers on this panel, especially, who I'm sure are stressed too, but often silent and go unheard. I think an exclusive session on stress among teachers will be a good idea, and FICCI, through its Education and Skill Committee, will take up research and conduct a session on this very soon, which is important. But thanks to all the teachers, and we at FICCI, UP Tourism, Government of UP acknowledge your role and bow down to you in respect for whatever you do. And I remember from Kabir, Guru Govind do khade, kake lagu paaye, balihari Guru aapne, Govind diyo bataye, which means there's God and teacher, both are standing together. Whom do you bow first? Whom do you give your respect first? So probably Kabir says that you should respect the teacher first, because teacher is the one who has provided you knowledge, including the path to God. So God comes second to teachers. So I now propose a vote of thanks for today's session on behalf of the Government of Uttar Pradesh, Department of Tourism, MKITM, and FICCI. I first of all thank Mr. Mukesh Mishra, Principal Secretary and DG Tourism, for delivering an inspiring address, keynote for today's session. Thank you, Anupama. Very special thank you to you for moderating this session so very efficiently and making it so engaging for all of us. We have stretched on our time and we are beyond our time limits, but which means that we had a wonderful session and we didn't want to leave the session. I also thank all the panelists in today's webinar: Arun Singh, Eric Holiday, Shiva Hamid, Divya Agnihotri, Anushli Banerjee, and Praveen Singh Rana, for discussing these very important issue and helping students to ease a bit of their stress, if not all. Not to forget the efforts of Mr. Avinash Chandra Misra, Joint Director, UP Tourism, who is quite instrumental in making us organize this mega webinar series. Thank you, Avinash, if you are hearing us. And of course, our own FICCI team, Mr. Manish Ahuja, Amit Gupta, Samanda, Chetan, and Divjot Anand. Above all, to all the guests who have joined us in large number, it is heartening to see so many students and teachers who have joined us from different universities and institutions today. And thank you for all of you for staying all through this webinar. And at one point, we had the data which crossed the count of 3,500, which is extremely encouraging. Before we leave, just to remind you that next Friday on 6th of August, we will be live again with new session, new panelists as a part of this ongoing webinar series. Thank you once again to everybody.